Jay Gabler, Duluth News Tribune arts and entertainment reporter, back with another special episode of the DNT Minute featuring my column, Front Row Seat. This week I went up, and so did digital producer Dan Williamson, to Split Rock Lighthouse, where there is a brand new exhibit just opened Friday that is turning a new lens on the history of that storied North Shore landmark. If you're going to replicate a lens comprising 252 prisms, you want to avoid half measures. Hayes Scriven, standing next to a replica of the lens that focuses the beacon at Split Rock Lighthouse, said, "It was a big expense, but we wanted to spend the money to make it right and make it accessible." Scriven is site manager at the lighthouse, which is operated as a visitor attraction by the Minnesota Historical Society. The lighthouse was active from 1910 to 1969, and the beacon is now only lit for special occasions. Scriven said, "There's an agreement that we've had with the Coast Guard that said, yeah, you can turn it on, but you can't turn it on all the time. If you did that, then the ships would get used to it." Thanks to donated funds as well as proceeds from Minnesota's Legacy Amendment sales tax, Scriven and his colleagues were able to realize the first major overhaul of Split Rock's exhibit space in 26 years. The new exhibit opened to the public Friday evening. Scriven explained, "We wanted to elevate other stories that hadn't been told here at the site before. We wanted to tell more of a complete Indigenous story here. We wanted to highlight more of the family side as well, so we wanted to have voices from the keepers' wives from their kids." Split Rock program manager Jerry Bohack told the News Tribune's Dan Williamson about an oral history feature.
We have areas that play oral histories of our site from actual people who lived here. For example, there's one given by Grace Young that talks about the inspector showing up for the station and having to get her dad ready for the inspector to come since they had to be in full dress uniform for that.
The exhibit also has several displays, including a video wall exploring the long-standing relationship Anishinaabe community members have had with Lake Superior and its shores. In addition to that video, the exhibit features that will most immediately grab visitors' attention are the lens replica and a wooden steering wheel from a nearby shipwreck that helped inspire the lighthouse's construction. The Madeira, an unpowered schooner barge, went down near Gold Rock Point in a 1905 storm that claimed at least 32 lives, including one on the Madeira, and sank or damaged 29 ships. 2 years later, Congress appropriated the funds to build Split Rock Lighthouse. At the center of the new exhibit in the Radzak Family Gallery, the lens replica rotates on its stand with a near-hypnotic effect. It's a third-order Fresnel lens, a type of lens developed in France in the early 19th century. The distinctive concentric prisms of a Fresnel lens give it a scalloped appearance and serve to focus more light than a standard lens. Jerry Bohack told Dan about the differences between the replica and the original lens.
Probably the major difference between the replica and the original lens. Our original lens is made up of all glass prisms. The reason why we went with the acrylic is, number one, it is cheaper to do that, and it also makes it a lot lighter.
The replica lens is more accessible than the original, both in the respect that you can see it without climbing a winding staircase, and also in the sense that you can view it head-on rather than looking up at the lens as when visiting the lighthouse tower. Scriven said about the original lens, "You have to crane your neck to see, and you're not as close to it." Scriven said the exhibit design staff faced the challenge of serving and informing a wide range of visitors. You get people that are just like, lighthouse, that's all they want. They want to come, they want to learn as much as they can about the lighthouse, and they want the nittiest, grittiest, nerdiest thing they can find. For those guests, the new exhibit includes original construction documents and replica oil vapor tanks, oil vapor being the beacon's initial light source. For visitors more interested in the lighthouse's human stories, there are artifacts like the hat worn by the light's first keeper and a cap from one of the last Coast Guard members to staff the light in the late 1960s. There's other visitors that want to come here and hear about shipwrecks, continued Scriven. For those guests, there's the wheel and other material relating to the Madeira and a display dedicated to the Edmund Fitzgerald. Lake Superior's most famous shipwreck has become associated with Split Rock through remembrance ceremonies, although that ship went down in 1975, nearly 300 miles to the east. "We get so many questions about it, we have to tell that story," said Scriven. Maybe once the exhibit is open, Scriven will have time to watch a much-discussed recent movie, The Lighthouse, from 2019. In that film, Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson play a pair of keepers on a fictional New England lighthouse. Isolated from the world, they approach the verge of madness. Split Rock was pretty remote for its time, but there were also 3 other people here, said Scriven. The people that were here at Split Rock, they had their families. There were issues, but they didn't completely go nuts. That's this week's column. I'll be back next week with some words about beach reads. A lot of new books coming out in the Northland, as always, and I've taken a selection to consider for potential summer beach reading. And yes, I did go down to Park Point this afternoon for a photo shoot. So that'll be next week. Until then, I'm Jay Gabler, Duluth News Tribune.